Hi, I'm Brooks Flynn with the Workstation business unit here at Lenovo. And I want to show you and talk to you about a brand new product that we've just released into market, the P360 Ultra. But first I want to start with what it's replacing. So this is what's called a small form factor workstation, and this is our P350 small form factor of today. And what we've been able to do in a chassis that's half the size is bring you more performance and more graphics power. So we go from about 8.2 liters, which is the measure of the volume of the chassis, down to 3.9 liters. So really less than half of the volume that we see on the predecessor product. In addition, we've been able to go up to now 125 watt CPUs, where we were capped at 65 watts previously. And now we're able to go up to an RTX A2000 desktop graphics card, and maybe more specially even, an RTX A5000 mobile graphics card that we've created for this product. So we've greatly improved and increased the performance you can get on the GPU side. And that's all interesting. And let me lay this down and we'll take a look at what we can do on this product. So I want to kind of give you a run through of the ports on the front. Integrated Thunderbolt 4 on this. So you can see I've got two Thunderbolt 4 USB-C ports on the front here. I've got a USB Type A, that's a 10 gig per second USB-A port. I'll flip it around to see the back side of the chassis before we take it apart. Couple of unique things here, right? I've got dual Nic ports. So I've got a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port and a 1 gig Ethernet port. And we'll talk a little bit more about that and some target use cases that you can get with that dual Nic in this product a little bit later. I've got 3 display ports, full-size display ports here. I've got another bank of 4 10 gigabit USB Type A ports here as well, and then our power input connector down at the bottom. This product was built from the ground up as a workstation, and as such, it has a very unique design. I want to take it apart to show you a little bit from an airflow perspective what we've done and how we've been able to, increase both our CPU performance and our GPU performance in a chassis that's half the size. So with a simple slide out, I can now show you the internals of the system, and I'll lay it flat here so we can see and start on the top side. So you can see with having the motherboard in the middle, it allows 2 distinct airflow channels. Right, so this one coming across the top and one coming across the bottom. Right, so that's how it differs from a traditional desktop design, where the motherboard is mounted to one side of the chassis and then the airflow just comes over one side. So on this side of the planar, the motherboard, I've got my CPU heatsink and CPU blower assembly. So this is for 35 watt and 65 watt CPUs. With an 125 watt CPU, which is also available here, you'll actually have dual blowers and a connected heatsink running across. So to evacuate that heat from this form factor, we do take up both sides of this side of the motherboard with that cooling solution. On the other side of the CPU, when you're configured with a 35 or 65 watt CPU, we have a PCIe Gen 4 by 16 slot here. So I have a smaller card in here now, but you're able to get an RTX A2000 desktop graphics card in here. In addition to what I mentioned before, we've done a lot of work with NVIDIA to create a custom board running the RTX A5000 mobile GPU. So that gives us a lot of GPU performance here that we haven't had previously in the chassis in the small form factor range. I'm gonna flip it over and show you the other side of the motherboard. And here I want to show under the separate cooler, I'll pop this out of the way, I've got dual onboard M.2 slots for your storage, and it's got a separate blower heatsink assembly here as well to help keep those cool. And then I do want to point out here, you have 2 DIMM slots here. There are 2 on the other side behind the CPU as well, or kind of behind the blower of the CPU. So this chassis is unique in this architecture in that we're doing dual DIMMs per channel. So that gives us up to 128 gigs of memory in the P360 Ultra. Much of the competition you'll see in this space sticks with 1 DIMM per channel. We did a lot of work with Intel in order to facilitate this design and increase the capacity of what we could do in this chassis. When we go to and I can look at the back of the system, I'll actually flip it up like this. We're gonna look at the back, not the front. Oh, I got turned around myself to look at the system. I mentioned the dual NIC support here as well. So that comes into play, especially with embedded applications. So because we've now reduced this form factor dramatically, we're getting a lot of interest from our OEM and some new use cases for small form factor. So we're still meeting the demands of all of the customers, our engineering, automation, design customers that were using the small form factor to begin with. But now with the P360 Ultra, we can capture those customers and some new use cases, edge computing, quality control on manufacturing lines, and integration or embedded solutions within some of our OEM space as well. So the dual NIC support becomes very important for those customers who are looking for control and are looking for both input and output out of the system through the NIC design. Walking around the system again, just to highlight, the two Thunderbolt 4 ports on the front and the USB-A, but really brings a lot of power into a very small form factor. That's also very easy to take apart, right? So, again, just off the top, we've got 35, 65, and 125 watt CPU support in here. We've got a desktop RTX A2000 or an RTX A5000 mobile graphics card running in this system, in addition to that PCIe Gen 4 by 8 slot as well. So you can have networking or other PCIe card add-ins to the product. But that is the P360 Ultra, 3.9 liters, less than half the size of its predecessor. I'm very excited about what opportunities we can meet with this product.